She was only 28, crowned in gold, adored by thousands, her children waving from the palace balcony as warriors cheered her victory. In a single heartbeat, cold Roman hands snapped chains around her wrists. Everything she built gone, her triumph twisted into Rome's cruelest spectacle, a living warning to any queen who dared defy the empire. How far would they go to break a woman who refused to break? If that sudden fall from throne to chains already has your heart racing in the dark, hit that like button right now to let me know this story's gripping you tonight. Drop a quick comment with where you're listening from: a cozy bed in Manhattan, a quiet porch in Sydney, or anywhere the night feels heavy. It truly warms me to know you're here with me. And if you crave more of these haunting, soothing whispers into ancient history each night, tap subscribe so they find you as you drift off. Close your eyes and fall asleep to the chilling fate of the queens Rome could never truly conquer. Imagine being 28 years old, your silk robes flowing like a gentle river as you stand before your adoring subjects in the sun-drenched palace courtyard, the air thick with the sweet scent of jasmine blossoms and the rhythmic chants of victory hymns. This is your moment, a triumphant return from quelling a minor rebellion, your crown gleaming like a promise of eternal prosperity, your loyal warriors raising shields in salute, and your children waving from the balcony with wide-eyed pride. The feast awaits, tables laden with roasted meats, honeyed fruits, and wine that tastes of summer's warmth, a celebration of your unyielding rule over a kingdom that bends only to your will. But no one had warned you that Roman scouts had slipped through the borders like shadows at dusk. No one had mentioned the distant thunder of Quindus, Igend thunder of Cavusi, legionary boots marching in perfect unison, their eagle standards cutting through the horizon like omens of storm. You had been told this was custom, a simple envoy arriving to negotiate tribute, their gifts of olive oil and fine pottery masking something far more sinister. And as unfamiliar faces in polished helmets surround your throne room, their eyes cold and calculating, hidden rituals unfold in whispers, among them chains clinking softly, an ominous cart waiting outside whose purpose only they seem to understand. The air now heavy with the metallic tang of impending captivity and the faint, chilling echo of a crowd's distant roar. In a matter of minutes, the weight of those chains settles around your wrists like an unwelcome embrace, pulling you from the warmth of your palace into the harsh light of a world that suddenly tilted on its axis. Feel the rough hemp biting into your skin, not tight enough to bruise just yet, but enough to remind you that freedom is now a memory, fading like the morning mist over your homeland's hills. The Roman soldiers around you move with mechanical precision, their sandals kicking up dust on the road that once led to your triumphs, now stretching endlessly toward an empire that devours kingdoms like a Midwest blizzard swallows a forgotten barn. Breathe in the sharp scent of sweat-soaked leather and oiled metal, the sounds of marching feet sinking like a heartbeat you can't escape, and let your mind drift back to how it all began, not with a bang, but with the quiet audacity of ruling without Rome's permission. As the sun dips lower, casting long shadows that seem to whisper secrets of what's to come, allow yourself to sink deeper into this ancient tale, where queens weren't just prisoners, but puzzles that Rome couldn't resist solving in the most theatrical ways possible. You see, Rome didn't just conquer lands. It conquered egos, and nothing bruised the collective. Roman pride, quite like a queen who had the nerve to rule, successfully without so much as a nod from the Senate. Picture it, an empire built on straight roads, aqueducts that laughed at gravity, and legions that could march from breakfast to bedtime without missing a step. Order was their religion, hierarchy, their holy text, and rules? Well, rules were the air they breathed clean, structured, and preferably stamped with official wax seals. But toss a captured queen into that mix, and suddenly it's like dropping a feral cat into a room full of neatly stacked scrolls. She wasn't just a prisoner. She was a walking, talking disruption to the system, complete with her own crown and a fan club back home that refused to get the memo about Roman inevitability. No one had warned the centurions that queens came with baggage, not the literal kind, though there was plenty of that in golden chests and exotic fabrics, but the political sort, the kind that required emergency meetings in stuffy forums where senators argued over wine about whether to parade her or pension her off quietly. And frankly, the audacity of her even existing without Roman oversight. It was like showing up to a potluck with a dish no one asked for, but everyone secretly envied. Rome loved to pretend it was above such pettiness, but let's be honest, deep down, they were as territorial as a Texan defending their barbecue recipe. These queens weren't your average battlefield spoils, like a pile of rusty spears or a cart of looted grain that could be cataloged and forgotten in some dusty warehouse. No, they were high-maintenance headaches wrapped in royal entitlement, with excellent posture and a knack for inspiring inconvenient loyalty. Soldiers obey orders, sure, but followers believe, and belief is stickier than honey on a summer day hard to scrub off, and it attracts all sorts of buzzing trouble. Rome, ever the pragmatist, knew that killing her outright might turn her into a martyr, a ghostly figure haunting rebel campfires with tales of defiance. Better to keep her breathing, but barely relevant, like that one relative at family gatherings, who everyone politely ignores but can't quite disinvite. So, from the instant of capture, her fate shifted from warrior's end to bureaucratic ballet. Guards were tasked with transporting her carefully, not gently. Mind you, just intact enough for the show. You can't stage a proper Roman spectacle if the star attraction wilts on the road trip, after all. And oh, the waiting that was Rome's secret sauce. A slow simmer of uncertainty that could break spirits tougher than oak. Weeks, months even, might drag by in some makeshift tent or guarded villa with no word on what came next. No timeline, no hints, just the endless drip of time eroding her resolve, like rain wearing down a Midwest farmhouse until the roof finally caves. Worse still, during this limbo, Rome got to work dismantling her identity from afar. Titles? Ignored like yesterday's news. Royal status? Treated as a quaint foreign quirk, about as relevant as a Viking trying to explain fjords to a desert nomad. She became the captive, or the barbarian woman, her story rewritten in dispatches, before she even set foot in the eternal city. And if you're smirking at the sheer bureaucratic pettiness of it all, good Rome would approve in their dry, clipboard-clutching way. They weren't impulsive brutes. They were artists of order, turning personal downfall into public policy. A queen who had commanded armies now depended on Roman rations and indifferent guards. her future debated over administrative complaints like she was a faulty aqueduct needing repairs. It's almost comical in that dark, cozy way, like imagining a modern CEO reduced to arguing with customer service over a lost package, except the package was her entire legacy. And just when the isolation started to feel eternal, the real performance began to loom. A triumph not of her making, but one designed to make sure everyone knew exactly who was rewriting the rules. The Roman triumph. Now there's a word that sounds deceptively cheerful, like a victory lap with confetti and high fives all around. But for a captured queen, it was more like being the unwilling float in a parade sponsored by your worst enemy, complete with symbolic chains and a crowd primed for spectacle. Rome turned conquest into theater, streets cleared like a Super Bowl halftime show, temples flung open for blessings, and throngs of citizens gathering not just to cheer their general, but to gawk at the spoils. Treasure glittered, exotic animals lumbered by looking as confused as anyone. And there, amid the weapons and wagons, walked the defeated enemies alive for maximum impact. You, the queen, trailed behind the victorious commander on his chariot, draped in purple like a knockoff god, while you trudged on foot, restraints glinting just enough to catch every eye. The contrast was deliberate, sharper than a legionary's sword. He rode high, embodying civilized might. You followed low, a visual punchline to the empire's joke about foreign folly. And the clothing? Oh, Rome had a field day with that, dressing you in your most exotic finery not out of respect, but to emphasize how utterly out of place you were, like showing up to a black tie event in a Halloween costume. Everyone mocks but secretly photographs. The crowd played their part without rehearsal, staring, whispering, chuckling at the queen, who once ruled but now couldn't even dictate her own steps. Rome loved a good visual metaphor, and this was theirs. See what happens when you play queen without our script. No shouts needed. The silence of your demotion spoke volumes, chains clinking like awkward applause. Sometimes, to twist the knife with absurd optimism, they'd let you keep a crown or necklace, not for dignity, but to remind the onlookers of what had been. Lost power emptied out like a beer mug after a long night. And if children were involved, Rome didn't hesitate to parade them too, little props and chains, turning your personal tragedy into a family-friendly warning about bloodlines that dared to defy. It's darkly funny, in that dad joke way, how an empire so obsessed with efficiency treated humiliation like a team-building exercise. The triumph wasn't rushed. It happened months after the war, letting anticipation build like a slow-cooking stew, rumors spreading faster than wildfire in a dry prairie. By the time you reached those streets, hope had curdled into dread, and Rome's message echoed without a word. Resistance isn't just doomed, it's embarrassing. But even as the parade wound through the city, the cheers swelling like a wave about to crash, you couldn't help but wonder if this was the end, or just the intermission before something colder, quieter, and infinitely more personal. The general ascended the Capitoline Hill for his laurels. The crowd dispersed with bellies full of free bread and wine, and you were led away into the shadows of captivity, where Rome's real artistry began to unfold. No more spotlights, just the slow grind of irrelevance, where survival didn't mean mercy. It meant becoming a living footnote in someone else's history book. And as the gates closed behind you, the Empire's grip didn't loosen after the triumph. If anything, it tightened like a noose disguised as a necklace, elegant but inescapable. Keeping you alive wasn't kindness, it was calculus, a way to squeeze every last drop of utility from your existence before deciding if erasure was the next step. Rome understood that a dead queen sparked songs and uprisings, but a living one, stripped bare and sidelined, that was a warning that whispered forever, like a ghost story told around campfires to keep the kids in line. So they housed you in something deceptively comfortable, a guarded villa perhaps, or a temple wing where the air smelled of incense and indifference, far from the roar of the forum, but close, enough for officials to drop by and remind you of your new role, exhibit A in the Museum of Bad Decisions. No iron bars necessarily, because Rome knew that true imprisonment was psychological, like being stuck in a never-ending Zoom call with no mute button, endless days without purpose. Your commands echoing off walls that didn't care. Food arrived regularly, bland but sufficient, a subtle dig at your former feasts, and medical care kept you presentable, because a sickly queen inspired pity, not lessons. Isolation was the real chain, heavier than any metal. Separated from allies, letters intercepted like nosy neighbors, rifling through mail, visitors vetted until only the most boring bureaucrats slipped through. Routine became your jailer: wake, eat, pace. Sleep eroding that queenly fire like waves smoothing a jagged rock on a lonely beach. And the uncertainty? Rome's favorite seasoning, sprinkled liberally. No word on how long this would last, no calendar marking freedom or finality, just the Empire's patient hum, waiting for you to fade into harmlessness. It's almost comically grim how Rome turned punishment into administration, debating your fate between tax reports and aqueduct updates, as if you were a stubborn weed in their perfectly manicured garden. Fear seeped in quietly, no grand threats, just the knowledge that Rome remembered you, and that alone was enough to chill the blood, like a Midwest winter creeping under the door when the power's out. Sometimes they'd parade you subtly, a living trophy referenced in speeches or shown to visiting dignitaries, proof that even queens bent to Roman will. But mostly it was silence, the kind that amplifies every creak and whisper, turning time itself into a tormentor. Rome didn't need to torture. They let boredom do the dirty work, knowing rulers like you thrived on command, not contemplation. And if resentment built, well, that was just fuel for their narrative sea. These barbarians can't even appreciate civilized captivity. Darkly amusing, isn't it? How an empire that built wonders also mastered the art of making powerlessness feel like a personal failing. Your people back home heard rumors, hope flickering like a candle in the wind, but Rome controlled the breeze, snuffing it out with calculated delays. In this limbo, you weren't a threat anymore. You were leverage, a card held close until the game demanded it. But as months blurred into years, and the villa's walls seemed to close in like a slow embrace, the question lingered heavier than ever. When would Rome decide that your lesson had been learned? And what colder chapter waited just beyond the horizon? The gates closed behind you with a finality that echoed like a door slamming on a life you barely recognized anymore. And in that hush, the real punishment began to settle in, not the chains or the parade, but the exquisite cruelty of being kept alive just long enough to watch your own relevance evaporate, like morning dew under a relentless Roman sun. Rome didn't need to raise a hand. It simply let time do the heavy lifting, turning days into a soft, suffocating blanket that muffled ambition and dulled the edges of who you once were. Picture yourself in that guarded residence, the air thick with the scent of olive oil lamps flickering low, the distant murmur of Roman, streets filtering through latticed windows like a world you're no longer invited to join. Meals arrive on schedule, simple bread, olives, watered wine enough to sustain, never enough to indulge, a quiet reminder that indulgence now belongs to others. Guards change shifts with polite nods, their faces as interchangeable as coins in a treasury, and you find yourself counting the cracks in the frescoed walls because there's little else to command your attention. It's almost laughable, in that dry, midnight chuckle way, how an empire that conquered half the known world spent so much effort making one woman feel like an afterthought, like a misplaced scroll gathering dust on a shelf no one bothers to open. Rome understood something profound about power. You don't just strip it away, you redesign how the world sees it. Keeping you breathing but inert was their masterstroke, a living cautionary tale that whispered to every distant ruler, "Look closely." This is what happens when you forget who writes the rules. No martyrs, pyre to rally around, no dramatic execution to fuel songs, just a slow fade into comfortable irrelevance. The kind that makes rebellion feel not tragic, but faintly ridiculous. Your former subjects heard fragments. She's alive, she's in Rome, she's quiet. Hope flickered, then guttered out, because what good is a symbol that no longer speaks? And Rome moved on to the next conquest, filing reports about you the way a farmer notes the weather-useful information, but hardly the center of the day. Darkly cozy, isn't it? Like realizing the blizzard outside your Midwest window has been raging for hours while you dozed by the fire, oblivious and oddly grateful for the warmth inside, even if the warmth isn't yours to control anymore. The uncertainty was the sharpest blade, wrapped in velvet. No one told you how long the sentence would last. Days? Years? Forever? Roman officials visited occasionally, not to threaten, not to negotiate, just to observe, like gardeners checking on a plant they've decided not to prune just yet. Their questions were polite, almost bored. Are you comfortable? Do you require anything? Words that landed like polite slaps, reminding you that comfort itself was now a favor granted by strangers. You learned to measure time by the changing of the light through the atrium, by the seasonal shift in the fruit served at dinner, by the slow graying of your own reflection in polished bronze. And in those quiet stretches, memories crept in like old friends who overstay their welcome. The roar of your armies, the weight of your crown, the way your children once ran to you with sticky hands and unstoppable laughter. Now the laughter was distant, and the hands that reached for you belonged to servants who bowed to Rome, not to you. Rome didn't forbid mourning. It simply made sure mourning had nowhere productive to go, like tears soaking into sand. Some queens lasted months in this limbo, others years, their names gradually slipping from Roman conversation the way smoke drifts from a dying hearth. Rome had patience the way oceans have depth vast, unhurried, and capable of swallowing anything whole. If your former people stirred, a casual mention of your continued survival could calm them. No need for rash action. She's well cared for. If winds shifted and you became inconvenient, well, options remained open. It's grimly amusing how an empire so fond of grand gestures mastered the art of doing almost nothing and achieving everything. Your identity eroded not in dramatic scenes, but in the quiet accumulation of days without meaning, until even you began to wonder if the woman who once ruled had been a dream belonging to someone else. And through it all, Rome never admitted fear, not of you, not of what you represented, but fear was there, buried under layers of marble and law, the quiet dread that somewhere someone might still believe power could bloom outside their carefully tended garden. The body was disposed of efficiently. No tomb, no marker, just administrative closure, like sealing a ledger at the end of a fiscal year. Rome had already extracted every lesson your life could teach. Death was merely paperwork, the final stamp on a file that had outlived its usefulness. And outside, the city continued its rhythm merchants haggling, senators debating legions, marching barely pausing to note that another warning had been quietly retired. But even death wasn't always the closing act. Sometimes Rome chose erasure over execution, a slower, more thorough vanishing act performed by scribes and historians with ink more permanent than chains. Your name appeared in records, yes, but reshaped. Ambitious instead of visionary, reckless instead of courageous, emotional instead of passionate. Roman writers sighed on parchment, framing you as a cautionary footnote, proof that women who reached too high were doomed by their own excess. Compliments, when offered, were poisoned, brave, but tragically misguided, clever, but fatally foreign. Over generations, schoolboys memorized the Roman version, your real story dissolving like salt in water, until you became less a person and more a moral, the ancient equivalent of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Rome didn't need to deny you existed. It simply made sure you no longer mattered. Your legacy edited out the way a careful gardener prunes unruly branches to keep the tree perfectly symmetrical. And the cruelest irony, this meticulous dismantling revealed Rome's own unease more clearly than any battlefield defeat ever could. Empires don't invest centuries humiliating insignificant foes. They reserve that energy for threats that once felt real, for alternatives that might have worked if fate had tilted differently. Queens like you weren't punished because you were weak. You were punished because for a moment you were dangerously strong enough to make Rome wonder, in the quiet corners of its marble heart, what might have happened if belief had outlasted conquest. Rome won the wars, controlled the pens, and shaped the memory, but cracks remained. Your name survived, fragmented and distorted, yet stubbornly present, whispering across centuries that resistance once burned, bright enough to scare the most powerful empire the world had yet seen. As the lamps burn lower in your own room tonight, let the weight of that ancient pettiness settle around you like a heavy quilt, comforting in its familiarity, because human nature hasn't changed all that much. We still build systems to manage fear, still rewrite stories to protect our pride, still turn personal tragedies into public lessons. But there's quiet grit in knowing that even Rome, with all its roads and legions and triumphs, couldn't fully silence the women who dared to rule without permission. Their echoes reach us still, faint but defiant, reminding us that power's greatest fear is always the same, that someone, somewhere might believe a different world is possible. Let those echoes fade now, soft as breath against a pillow. Feel the story loosen its grip, the chains of ancient Rome dissolving into the gentle pull of sleep. You're safe here, far from triumphs and tribunals, wrapped in the warmth of your own bed on this quiet night. Breathe slow and deep, let the weight of crowns and empires drift, away like smoke from a long extinguished fire. The past has shared its secrets, and now it releases you. Drift gently deeper still, into the waiting dark where no one demands anything of you, not loyalty, not obedience, not even memory. Good night. Sleep well. The queens are finally at rest, and so very soon will you be.